Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Teacher Ryan, and today we are now in the third series of the lesson of understanding ourselves. So, this entitled Understanding Ourselves in the Lens of Psychological Perspectives. Anyway, if you're new here in my channel, don't forget to click and subscribe and hit the notification down below for more updates of my videos. So, what do you expect from this lesson? At the end of this, you'll be able to identify the different ideas in psychology about the self, create your own definition of the self based on the definitions from psychology, and analyze the effects of various factors identified in psychology in the formation of the self. We'll have an activity and we call it Ano Ako sa Tingin Ko, what I think about myself at sa tingin nila sa akin and what they think about me. I want you to get a piece of paper and a pen, of course, and I want you to list down 10 qualities about yourself. You will begin it with I am. Then you have to fill in the blank. So 10 qualities about it. Then I want you to look for 5 people and each of them will receive 5 qualities that you think about them. All right? So what will happen next is afterwards you will compare yourself to those written by your classmates. Once your classmate states something about you, you will jot down those qualities. And if you think that their qualities about you have the same on the qualities that you wrote on your paper, so you will check mark. But if you think that they mention about qualities that are not true to you, you will jot down those qualities and put X if you don't see that is you. But if you feel like you are sometimes that person, kind of qualities, then you will jot down those and put a bar sign. Then, how many true, count how many are true and how many are not true and sometimes not true. You can pause this video for a while to compare your answers with your classmates. Now, a lot of people say, I am who I am. If you are who you are, then who you are that makes who you are. So this is somehow a relation to what Rene Descartes says about cogito ergo sum, or I think therefore I am. So this will allow us to understand the word I am who that refers to the person, your identity, but not I am what I am. You see, what refers to the things that you acquire in the external reality, like your skills, your success, your talent, the things that you have right now. Those are the what. But here, at the end of the day, when you take away those things in yourself, so basically, what remains is your identity. And that identity that you would like to see yourself above and beyond the things that you acquire. Now let's go to the different psychologies that help us understand ourselves. Gianniani and Tari 2014, they said that in order for us to understand ourselves, there is what we call the sense, the substance, that what we see and what we consider essential, that becomes our personal identity, and that would lead us to who we are as individuals. If you think that you are the child of God, and that you consider substantial and even essential, then that will contribute that personal identity that you are a child of God. On the other hand, William James, 1890, in one of the earliest psychologists, okay, studied the self, and he conceptualized the self as having two aspects, the I and the me. So anyway, if you watch this video with your phone in a portrait manner, then if you cannot read well the text on the presentation, I want you to tilt this. I want you to tilt your phone and go to the setting, then change it into uh, landscape manner, no landscape position, so that you can really see the text clearly. Okay, now William James identified the two. First is the I, so and the me. I refers to the thinking, acting, and feeling. Okay, the feeling self. The me is the physical characteristics as well as the psychological capabilities that makes you who you are. Now I want you to look at the thinking of the I. So what you think about yourself, for example, I am intelligent. That's how you think about yourself based on the contributions of the environment. And then when you act upon it, and when there is an emotional attachment, that actually help you understand the I. On the other hand, the other aspect of the self is the me. The me is the combination of the physical characteristic that I am neat, I am ugly, I am handsome, and with the psychological capabilities that will reinforce the way how you think physically about yourself. That's the me. Okay? So, moving on to the next is we have Carl Rogers, 1959. The theory of personality also used the same terms, the I, as the one who acts and decides, while the me is what you think or feel about yourself as an object. So this is now another psychologist help us understand that the I is the one will decide, the one will act about it. But the me is just what you think or feel about yourself as an object. So the moment you declare about yourself that I am generous, so when you declare, it's just the me that you think and feel about yourself. But when you don't act upon it, or when you don't decide to do what you declare, that remains to be me. But when you do something out of it, of being generous, that is seen in your action based on your decision, that's the I. Nowadays, there are a lot of people who keep on giving promises, giving something like parang declaring something that only limits to what they say, but they fail to show it through action. I may not know about you, but I want you to think about this. That it's not just about the things that you say about yourself, but the things that when you do about it, and that becomes meaningful and essential. Identity is composed of one's personal characteristics, social roles, and responsibilities, as well as affiliation that defines who one is, according to Elmore, Oyserman, and Smith, 2012. Here, as we can see, that the identity is not just about how or what we think or feel about ourselves, but there are a lot of factors that will help us identify and understand ourselves. And one of which is our social roles, being as a son, as a daughter, as a as a faithful believer of God, as a vendor, as a student, the social roles that you have right now are ones of the factors that will understand yourself. Not just that, you have the responsibility to act or to be accountable on your social roles. And of course, the group, the organization that where you belong is also one of the factors that will help you understand your identity. Another thing is we have the word self-concept. Self-concept is basically what comes to your mind when you're asked about you are. So when people ask you what you are or what you think you are, that refers to self-concept. But identity is actually about your personal characteristic, what you say about yourself, how you play an important role in the society, and how you act upon it, and the people around as a group that will affect your understanding about yourself. But the self concept is when you are asked about what you can do or what contribution you can give to the institution, and that you are now leading to self concept. Moving on, the self identity and self concept are not fixed in one time frame. Your description in the past, present, and future about yourself varies. They are ever changing at every moment. Think of malleable metal, strong and hard. Think about water, but at its core, it is still the same elements. Just like the metal, no matter how strong and firm, once it is exposed on fire, it becomes malleable, that can be twisted, that can be managed, that will be bent, right? And I want you to think about the water. When you disturb the surface, it will ripple. But the core of it is the same element. Just like 1,000 pesos. No matter how people try to crumble that money, stamp on it, crumple it, it is just your that money will just change its look, wrinkled, um, the wrinkled um, appearance of the money, but the value is still the same. Your past, your present, your future varies. In other words, you are not your past. Your past is just a vessel that would lead you to your present. In other words, when you were hurt in the past, that's not necessarily that you will experience hurt in the present. You need to be thankful of your past because that will give you the opportunity to become better in the present time. Once you were cheated in the past, that will not help you to become a cheater in the present. Once you're cheated, don't do some revenge in cheating with other people. Because what will you get? You will only get guilt, disappointment, and you will never get satisfied. Because the more you feed, the more it grows. The more you feed about pride, the more it grows. And your past will actually help you to learn how to become a better individual, how to improve yourself. It doesn't mean that you could not do something, does not lead you that you are incapable. So your past is not your present. Be thankful of the hurt because that will help you understand that that hurt is temporary and that hurt will strengthen you. That hurt will teach you to love again. I know that that is not easy, but I believe it is possible. Okay? And that will help you prepare yourself to embrace the reality of the future. Next, we have Carl Rogers, moreover, captured this idea in his concept of self-schema. No? We have the self-schema or our own organized system or collection of our knowledge about who we are. There are many factors that will lead you to say that I am generous. So perhaps that will be the factor of your hobbies. You love to collect things, and the moment you enjoy these things and you no longer don't use them and you don't use them anymore, I mean, you actually give your toys, no? So not just it, but you will also look at yourself based on the religion, what the religion says about you. Your nationality here in the Philippines, when you are born, you're called to be Filipinos. Filipino, I mean. And then your family, what your family says about you. So these are not just the factors, there are many factors that will help you understand yourself. The schema is not limited to the example above or previously or on the previous. It may include your interests, your work, your course and age, and your physical characteristic. As you grow and adapt to the changes around you, they also change. But they are not passive receivers. They actively shape and affect how you see, think, and feel about things. In other words, if you have a bad experience on a certain restaurant because you were not served properly, the service was poor, and then once you share it with other people, then what happened to you? That will give them the impression of the restaurant that you visited once. But actually, it is just your interpretation of your experience that would actually tell you what happened. But it doesn't mean that what you experience is the same experience that other will experience. It is just your personal interpretation of what happened on the experience. But that won't actually allow you to let other people experience because we have different timelines, different experiences. Not the same with you, but perhaps similar. Next is when someone states your name, even he is not talking about you, your attention is drawn to him. If you have a provincial language and you hear someone using it, it catches your attention. If you consider yourself a book lover, a bookstore may also entice you out of other stores in a mall. So here, whatever draws our attention, this will actually help you connect yourself to the outside world, your external reality, just like what was stated on the screen. Like when someone calls you, you turn your head and look at that person calling you because there is a emotional attachment on the name. That's why, or familiarity of the name. Or when someone uses a unfamiliar accent, perhaps a provincial language, that attracts your attention because that is new to you. And even if you are in a mall, especially in a bookstore, there is something an awe that you experience. There's a special connection that you can see to that object. Every time that you see that book, 'di ba? There's something like an essence of connection to that book to yourself because there is similarity and even familiarity of the extension, how you see yourself to that kind of object. Moreover, the theorists generally see the self and identity as a mental constructs created and recreated in the memory. So, once you experience it, that will let yourself understand. However, you will not just remain that kind of thinking that you were in the past, but you learn how to recreate. You have to redefine, that you have to remind yourself that you did not fail. You are not a failure, you just failed. That is a kind of recreating your memory, that whatever that happened in the past doesn't necessarily the reason of your present time. So that will give you the opportunity to become the person that you want to be, and that will impact to the future. The current researches point to the frontal lobe of the brain as a specific area in the brain associated with processes concerning the self. So, the portion of our brain in the frontal lobe that is responsible in exposing, in discerning, in reflecting, in deepening our understanding about ourselves. I know that you're familiar with Sigmund Freud as one of the most important figures in psychology. He shared about the three sections of our mind. It has the conscious, the preconscious, and unconscious. These are the levels of our mind. And the three sections are ego, superego, and the id. I want you to look at the id. The id is located at the unconscious level. The id is basically the raw emotion, the raw thinking that you want to fulfill to yourself. And this id is basically responsible on your instinctive drives. So once there's when you touch something hot, so immediately your body resists to go away and avoid that kind of heat. So is an instinct. And the id is just like a little child who does not know why he's doing it, but for the sake of satisfying his own need and attention. This id is actually in store of our sexual desires, our aggression, something like you are doing but you are not thinking about it. As long as you just keep you feel like doing it, then that's your id. And next is your ego. If you look at the ego is located at the conscious level. The ego decides what should be the way if I will follow the id or not. So the ego there is just like you're the person having an angel and an evil. On the right side, that your id. So your id is just like a evil mini self of yours. And the other one is your super ego, the one that is an angel. The superego will actually remind your id not to do that, to limit, to regulate your id. So your superego is your conscience, rooted to your lessons that you learn in life, reminders and advice of your parents, the word of the church, the reminder, the guide, the conviction of the church about you. So this superego that is under the level of preconscious and your id will actually clash if your ego will not decide. So your ego will decide which will be approved So which one will actually expose to your decision? Let's look at some of the descriptions about it. The id is in the unconscious instinctual drives. One's desire fulfilled exists for pleasure, not realistic, not logical. There's pressure the mind to satisfy, release, collection of urges, sexuality, and aggression. Your ego is the totally id. Think about the things, experiences of the outside world, how much urges are expressed, what is rational and realistic, will balance the id and superego, and use defense to avoid anxiety. On the other hand, we have the superego, that is your conscience, the collection of moral lessons we learn from the parents, our parents, society, and organized religion. So moral perfection, too much freedom that can be perfectionist, sense of guilt. So if you feel that there is a guilt upon doing the things that are not right, so your super ego will come in and let you feel, and when you let experience that that is not good for yourself, and then your ego should listen. Okay, the next reasons or perspectives about ourselves is our social interaction. And our social interaction plays an important role for who we are today. No man is an island. We need someone, we need people who will help us to discover of who we are today. There's a framework called the theory of the symbolic interactionism. That's to G.H. mid 1934. He argued that the self is created and developed through human interaction. We are social product. We are the product of the environment that we are in. And in that environment, that will influence that kind of identity that we want to see to ourselves. So we are created and developed. We are influenced. So when you go to school, you are creating and developing your identity, yourself, through connection with other people. Just like if your teacher tells you that you are very good, so when you receive that because as an engagement to her or him, that will help you realize that you are doing well. Okay? Next, there are three reasons as the self and identity as social products. We do not create ourselves out of nothing. There must be a reason why we exist. When a lost wallet is found, you assume that that wallet does not magically appear without no reason. There must be an owner of that wallet. Same goes with yourself. You went here on earth for a reason, and that is to identify your identity. So your identity is deeply rooted to the one that helped you to be here. And that is one of the reasons there is the conviction of God that you are here on earth. Number two is we need other. Number one is the social product of the influence of the church. Number two is we need others, yes, to affirm and reinforce of who we think we are. So other people will actually criticize us. Other people will actually give the constructive and developmental criticism that will refine our character, that will refine our attitude so that we know exactly our limitation. Number three is what we think as important to us may also have been influenced by what is important in our social or historical context. So what is important is actually influence to our society. So if you see that stealing is not good, so because you see the importance of honesty, That's why you're not doing something bad that will displease that kind of morality that you are believing in. Okay? Next is we have the social awareness. Social interaction and group affiliation, therefore, are vital factors in creating our self, especially in the aspect of providing us with social identity to our perception of who we are based on the membership to certain groups. Think of studying with friends and studying on your own. So sometimes when we are with our classmates and we decide to do some study group, no, and then you think of something like what is essential. If I would be with my classmates, can we study well? Or can we just watch movies and afterwards we get tired and to the point that we could no longer focus on what we plan, and that is to study versus when you are studying on your own. So here, as you can see, it's vital to have a social interaction, but at the end of the day, your decision still matters. If you see if that will be beneficial or not. Self-awareness, Carver and Shear, 1981, identified two types of self that we can be aware of. Number one is the private self on your internal standard and private thought and feelings. Number two, the public self of your public image commonly geared towards having a good representation of yourself to others. So self-awareness is how you project your private life, your private self to your own. What are the things that are important to you, your plans, everything that you remain it and said, but you show it to other people through what you call public self. The public self is how you represent yourself to other people. Just like on Facebook, you want people others see that you are doing well in life, you are progressing, and you are doing your best. But your best, as you can see there, is not enough because there are things that you still want to do to satisfy the things that you plan about. So see, not all the time that once you expose yourself or post yourself on the social media will be the same kind of person that you show, right? Because we have our individuality of our decision. Okay, according to Higgins 1997 in Hag Fogman 2010, there's what we call the actual self, the ideal self, and the ought self. So what is this actual self? The actual self is who we are at the moment. So what you are today, you are a student, you are a teacher. The ideal self is who you think or you like to be. So if you, the ideal self, the actual self is you're a student, but the ideal self is you want to become professionals, or a teacher, you want to become a promoted head in your department. The odd self is who you think you should be. So there are things that you are now giving rules, agreements about yourself, who you think you should be. As a student, what you should think that you are, or as a immediate advisor or immediate manager, there are things that you would show that this is what suppose a manager do. Okay, so this is now something like what you should do about yourself. Okay, and think about an athlete with academic difficulty. So this is actually our self-awareness as a self-schema, how we organize. So or we organize it based on the actual self, the ideal, and ought. Okay, so if you see that there are many athletes who could not even manage well their studies if they do not have proper management of their time. I know that it's not easy to become an athlete at the same time as a student because you really have to give effort to cope with your misses, your miss quizzes, right? So you tend to organize so long this will help you to pass the subject. The self-awareness may be positive or negative depending on the circumstances and your next course of action. For example, if you have an exam tomorrow, will you be playing games and compromising the things without thinking much about your responsibility in the future? Of course, you will not do that, because if you will do that and when you compromise, you are now giving a negative self awareness. You know exactly, you're conscious enough to see things that will be helpful to you, that will be beneficial to you. If the self awareness can be too much and you're concerned about what other people will say about you, then that self awareness turns to become self conscious. Now, we have an example, a mass demonstration or erupting into riot or rumble in Tagalog. There's what we call de-individuation, or the loss of individual self-awareness and the individual accountability in groups. If there is a certain pressure that pushes you to be connected with other people, you forget about yourself. You think about the concern of the group. So in other words, if there is a mass demonstration, just like rally, you become part as one with the group. Okay? A lot of people will attune themselves with the emotion of their group, and because the large crowd also provides some kind of anonymity, so you don't identify there, we may lessen our self-control and act in ways that we will not do when we are alone. Our group identity and self-awareness also has a great impact on our self-esteem, one of the common concepts associated with the self. So here, once you see that there's a great impact, especially to the group or yourself, then you can actually have to build a self-esteem. It is defined as your own positive or negative perception or evaluation of yourselves. So when you evaluate, when you test, yourself, this will see whether you are achieving self-esteem or not, or you are projecting a positive or negative image of yourself. We learn about ourselves, the appropriateness of our behaviors, as well as our social statures by comparing aspects of ourselves with other people. So here, we hear a lot that you don't need to compare with other people. But the question is, to what extent that comparison be beneficial to you? If you see that the comparison does not help you to grow, then that is not a good comparison. There are two types of comparison. We have the downward social comparison and we have the upward comparison. What does this mean? The downward social comparison is the more common type of comparing ourselves with others. We create a positive self-concept by comparing ourselves with those who are worse off than us. By having the advantage, we're able to raise our self-esteem, especially when you graduate and look for a job. It's easy for a graduate to find a job because of the degree that he has, compared with those people who have just stopped or even ended to be on that level. There's nothing wrong about it, but it is just when they are at work, they cannot be promoted because of their credentials. Now, you see as an advantage when you compare yourself as a graduate, compare those who do not graduate or who did not graduate, there's an advantage that you can be promoted because of your credential. But it doesn't mean that once you have that kind of credential, that will discriminate other people. It is just how you see that there's an advantage, okay, without even putting down other people. Next is we have the upward comparison. Here is when we compare ourselves with those who are better off than us, especially when you see your batch mates, especially when you stop for many years. And then when you see your batch mates who are now professionals, there are times you cannot avoid. There are times when you feel like, if only I just finished on time, maybe I would be like him or her. So here as you can see that you see that they are better. But a lot of those who do this actually felt lower self-esteem. This will only belittle yourself. That will only make yourself less when you see other people more. That they are more successful, they have a lot of money, they are happier nowadays, but that will not make you less. Always remember that. Okay? So when you have an upward comparison, this is a time when you compare yourself negatively with other people to the extent that you see yourself even smaller. It states that we can feel threatened and when someone outperforms us, especially when a person is close to us, no, a friend or a family. In this case, we usually react in three ways. Especially when your parents compare you with your siblings, with your brother or sisters. And once you are threatened by the comparison, these are the effects that you might experience. Number one, you distance yourselves from that person or to your brother that you are being compared by your parents, or redefine your relationship with them, like resorting to silent treatment, change of friends, while some may also redefine by being closer with that person, hoping to give him her acknowledgement. So there are two ways. Either you will be resorting yourself to silence or silent treatment, or you see that that is an opportunity that will help you to become a better one by acknowledging you. Number two, reconsider the importance of the aspect or skill in which you were outperformed, like being told that drawing is not really for you, or you will find a hobby which you could excel, thus preserving your self esteem. If people reminded you or criticize you because you are not good at certain situation or certain skill, so that will serve as a discouragement or encouragement to you. Number three, strengthen our resolve to improve that a certain aspect of ourselves, like after quitting drawing, you might join seminars, practice more often, read books, add some elements in drawing that make it unique. So if you are discouraged because someone said that you are not good at a certain skill, that will not discourage yourself not to continue, but instead you have to continue it by improving yourself to become a better drawer and illustrator. I want you to read this. Achieving your goal through hard work may increase your self-esteem too. In other words, once you put effort, hard work on the things, when you put heart on the things that you love, no matter when you begin small, there's a difficulty, but when you continue doing it, no one will stop you. And you will not stop unless that the things that you want to fulfill will come to reality. Okay? In attempt to increase or maintain self-image or self-esteem, some people become narcissistic. Narcissistic. What do you mean by narcissistic? These are this is a trait characterized by overly high self-esteem, too much self-image, self-admiration, too much um, praises by other people, and becoming self-centered. How will you know that a person is narcissistic? If you are having a conversation and most of the conversation centered to him or her, and that person does not give you the opportunity to share something about you, share something with you, there's a problem. Okay? So they are often charismatic because how they take care of their image. Taking care of that image includes their interpersonal relationship with thus they will try to look better partners, better acquaintance, as well as people who will appreciate them a lot. So this is more on their weakness is the appreciation of other people. They love to be appreciated. They love to be admired. So most of the praises belong to people, and most of the praises belong to him by what other people say. But the question is, until when you will be receiving that praises? What if no people anymore, no one no one anymore will acknowledge you, praises you, that will still the same self-image, self-esteem that you have? I doubt. Okay? Because most narcissistic people tend to lose their energy, tend to lose their momentum when no one appreciated them. Maybe they will deny, but inside them, they long for praises and admiration. Okay? Self-esteem is very important concept related to the self. Studies have showed that it only be the correlation, not the causality to positive and outlook. It can be argued that the high or healthy self-esteem may result to an overall good personality. So once you have a healthy self-esteem, that will give you a good personality. However, it is not and should not be the only source of person healthy perspective of yourself. Do not just base it always on the things that you see about yourself. There are other things that you can be healthy physically, emotionally, spiritually. Those will contribute to your good personality. It is not just based on how you feel good about yourself, but also you have also to consider other aspects that would lead you to have a good personality. Okay? People with self-esteem are commonly described as outgoing, adventurous, and adaptable in a lot of situations. They also initiate activities and building relationship with people. However, they may also dismiss other activities that do not conform to their self-concept or boost their self-esteem. They may also be bullies and experiment on abuse behaviors with drugs, alcohol, and sex. That is according to Jagani and Tari 2014. So here, as you can see, that people who have self-esteem, they are usually those people who are sociable people, people person, no, adventurous. They love to be exposed to one place to another, and they love to be in accountability, responsible. No, they take charge. So most of them are leaders. However, if these things that do not conform to the way how they see things, the activities, the tendency is they lose that kind of level, that kind of energy. And there's an advantage when you have too much self-esteem, not just a narcissistic, but there's also possibility or tendency that one can be bully, that one can actually be abusive of behavior like drugs, nanaki confidence, no, and alcohol and even sex exploitation. In conclusion, in understanding yourself in the psychological perspective, this is actually the cognitive construct. This is how we create, this is how we develop, this is how we help ourselves through the 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 influence of our environment, how we project an image about yourself, about our private and public image. This is how we contribute also how we think about the self, the identity, the self awareness, and even the self consciousness when you are concerned too much about what others say about you. So, this is also helpful to understand about yourself because we are actually having that kind of way how we see ourselves based on how we think that we are. So I hope that this lesson helps you to understand more about yourself. So if you have any question, comments, or clarification, you can drop it. You can actually type on the comment section below and share your insight about this video. There are things that I need to improve more about the input of the information about this video, and you can help me out. So there are things that I need to improve more, but I am so blessed, I am fortunate to be a vessel of information that will give you the idea how to lead someone to understand himself or herself through the psychological perspective. And thank you so much and see you on my next video. Goodbye and God bless.